Greetings, Earthlings. I'm testing out this live feature, but I also thought I could use this as a chance to record my Brighton SEO keynote. Look like a bug. So yeah, let's record the keynote and I'll give you guys a peek at what was covered last week. Let me share my screen. All right. Whoa. All right. So I talked about how when it comes to implementing AI, most of you are set up to fail. And if this sounds like I'm being harsh, let's take a look at the data. Apollo came out with this research from the US Census Bureau that surveys over 1 million firms every other week and identifies if they're using AI to deliver goods or services. And this never got up above, 10%. The larger firms, it maybe peaked around 14, but everything's starting to decline. A lot of us saw this report. 95% of Gen AI pilots are failing. And this ratio really is everywhere. It's in my courses for different projects. It's talking to different AI startups all around the world. And I believe it's because implementing AI is really, really hard, right? If this was easy, everyone would be doing it, but it's not. This is completely new territory, new technology, and so it is inherently difficult. I'm just going to check and make sure the stream is working. Whoa. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, looks like it's working. I'll keep going. All right. All right, cool. So yeah, implementing AI is really hard. And specifically in marketing and SEO, there is a growing divide in AI discussions and AI implementation. This is truly where I believe marketers' competitive advantage lives. It really lives right here, especially as this continues over time. And I want to take a moment and talk about this ratio that we're talking about, 90%. And I think this is maybe even being generous. I think there might even be generous to builders. There might be more talkers than 90%. Most people just talk about AI, and very few people are actually building with it. And a lot of questions that I get, particularly around my course, is around, what sets successful students, successful AI builders apart from those people that just talk about AI. And what's so fascinating is the answer shocks people because it's not necessarily the smartest people in the room that succeed with AI. It's also not the people with the most resources. It's also not the people that are most technically savvy. In fact, all the successful builders I've ever met have something else totally in common. And that is the courage to implement imperfectly. And I really mean that. I gotta sneeze. Dang it. Sorry. Bless me. I really do mean this though, because AI, working with AI, you inherently run into failure. The path to AI success is literally paved in failure. And so you have to get comfortable with it. This took me a really long time. It's not fun to run into errors and to bump into problems and hurdles. But it is just part of the process, and you're actually learning a lot more than you think in that process. So it really is this courage to implement imperfectly. So that's great news, right? All of you have this inside you. All of you can execute imperfectly. It's really just a mental shift. And it's also adopting a new mental model, right? We're, especially in SEO, we're trying to apply these old mental models to completely new technology, and it just doesn't work like that. I love this quote so, so much. This really perfectly embodies what it is I'm trying to communicate with this courage piece here. As you start to walk on the way appears. So as this quote suggests, clarity and direction emerge from action, right? If you wait for the perfect path to appear, you're going to be waiting your whole life, right? Things start to become much more obvious as you start working with the technology and as things start to develop. Something that continues to kind of blow my mind is that some of the most brilliant professionals really, really struggle to identify even the right tasks for AI. So they're essentially setting themselves up for failure before they even touch the technology because they don't know how to qualify a task for AI or for something else. And what I often encounter is these really brilliant professionals, they will either be extremely vague in AI applications, like, oh yeah, we want AI to, do marketing. What does that mean? What do you mean? Or they're super complex. We want AI to do our sales and lead gen and create a funnel and alert us of this and a dashboard that does this and all these things. Like, also doesn't work like that, right? You have to really start small and focus on the problem first. And before we get into that mental model, we need to address an elephant in the room. Because so many of us have completely lost the plot, right? The goal here isn't that AI is a hammer and everything is a nail. The goal isn't to work with AI. The goal is to solve real world valuable problems. That's the goal. And unfortunately, a lot of these conversations center around the technology, right? Think about recent conversations or news you may have read about AI in the industry lately. It all centers around the technology instead of real world problems or people. And that's an issue, right? We need to get back to solving real world tasks. That's the goal. Otherwise, you're just throwing AI at things that don't provide any revenue or value for your business. And I would argue that this even starts way back before you start to think about AI. A lot of companies I talk to, they don't even have the tracking in place to necessarily know what's performing well for them and what's not. That's a huge problem, right? That's where I think of Dana DiTomaso. That's where her and her team's incredible work comes in of, tracking and analytics and knowing what's working and what's not. So you can double down on the things that are actually working. So again, this is way too vague. We want AI to help with marketing. What do you mean? And I feel bad with this keynote because I'm like, man, I'm not really, these are things that I shouldn't necessarily be telling the audience, but telling the audience's bosses, right? Or their stakeholders. They're the real audience of this talk. So maybe share this with your manager or C-suite, because if you're getting messages like this, if you're getting pressure to use AI for the sake of using AI, you have lost the plot, my friend. You've lost it, and we need to find it. A better way to approach this would be AI to extract qualified PR leads from your inbox and draft appropriate responses. Now we're talking, right? This is a real clearly defined problem where AI can come in beautifully. And in fact, one of my students did exactly this. So this is the output of a PR opportunity Slack agent by Maddie Osman. So she gets Slack notifications via Zapier on the query details from a HARO or a PR opportunity in her inbox, the source, due date, and then a drafted reg response. This is brilliant, and wait until you see the full workflow. It's so genius. Maddie is so genius. But she was extremely successful here because, again, she started with a very clearly defined problem. So I'm excited to introduce this framework via my 3 builders. These are my 3 beautiful, wonderful builders that we can all learn a lot from. I know I certainly have. These builders also have something else in common in that they know just 101 foundational basics. They, know that LLMs are inherently good at these things and not so great at these things. I would also argue, even if you didn't know this, you would run into this, right? It would become very clear to you that they're not good at math or counting, etc. I'd also like to note that I believe most marketers' definition of AI is really, really tiny compared to what the full scope of, the AI landscape, machine learning landscape actually is. This is just the tip of the iceberg of different types of models outside of an LLM that do really specific things. And here's the thing. I used to go on stages and give webinars and stuff, and I thought marketers needed to know all of this. And I have been proven wrong. You don't need to know the technical details behind these other models or libraries or what they do. All you need to know is that they exist. That's it. Because if you know that they just exist, then at least you will question whether or not LLM is the right tool for the job. That's all. What? There's a spider floating. Sorry. Again, I've been in this field for a really long time. I'm also not naturally. What is that? What are you? There's this giant bug. I gotta close my window. I'm not naturally a good teacher. A lot of you are like, don't you teach an AI class? I do. And it's been a journey to get here because I used to just get too technical and in the weeds thinking that this is me on stage in 2018. I don't know what I was thinking at this conference, but I was teaching marketers about how to train a model, and you save 20% of the training data for testing after it's been trained on different epochs to solve a problem. You don't need to know any of this, right? Well, I'm learning. We're all learning here. And so what I've developed and what I'm trying to say here is I've really simplified all of this for you. I have streamlined and come up with a really simple 4-step framework and mental model to set you up for success with AI. So let's get into it. So this is your framework. This is your blueprint. Starting problem first. So this is actually the most important part of the framework and probably takes more time than people think. Again, you have to get very, very specific and start small, breaking a task down into specific steps, almost as if you were writing them out for a new hire in another room, right? This is also the part of the process to consider unintended consequences. If you maybe have thought up a problem that, if AI gets it wrong, it provides like the wrong medical treatment for cancer patients. Let's not do that, right? That feels dangerous. But for something like drafting responses to PR requests, let's move forward. These are some very large notes I had here because I swear my eyes are getting worse. Consider the tasks you do regularly, right? That is super important. So you can identify what success looks like. And then again, just to double down on the breaking it down into steps, this is key. This is key for any workflow incorporating AI. Having that engineering mindset, I've noticed that's inherently tricky for SEOs and marketers to adopt because, again, we've never had to do that before. So I get it. But I think through examples and through showing you how others have done this successfully, we can start to paint a really better picture of how you can successfully do this. So again, instead of AI to handle customer service, what do you mean? What do you mean? Let's talk about AI to categorize support tickets by urgency and route them to appropriate departments. That makes sense, right? That is going to save lots of time. AI is very qualified to categorize support tickets into different buckets. And then we can create an automation to route to the appropriate people. So let's do this again. AI to grow leads. No. What do you mean? Too vague. You're getting the picture, right? Identify people who engage with competitors' LinkedIn posts and use AI to craft outreach. Now we're talking, right? That is so specific, and we can work with that. All right, the second step, and this is also really important, they're all important, supporting data. Examples. So of all of the AI papers and research that have ever come out about prompt engineering, do you know what the number one thing has been that produces better AI outputs? It's just examples. It's examples of the desired output you want to see. It's additional context for a particular task. Working with AI, it really is garbage in, garbage out. A model is only going to be as intelligent or as knowledgeable as the data you feed it. And again, this is iterative. This takes failure and new approaches to understand, like, ooh, we could use some more supporting data for this. It keeps getting that wrong. You got to play with this stuff. Next up, proof of concept. Right. So once you get here and you've started to develop, you've got your problem, you've got your supporting data for your task, it's really, really important to get a quick proof of concept, even if that's taking, example or dummy data into ChatGPT or Gemini and validating that it works to do something. That is sufficient. I have this recipe tab open for pot roast, and it keeps playing these videos that are so distracting. Gotta get out of there. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Oops. I'm back. Okay, proof of concept. So I think it's really important to note on this phase of your journey, it is okay if AI is not the tool for the job, right? The answer, if AI is not the right tool for the task, that is okay. There are so many other libraries, automations, solutions that can help solve things. I don't think we have to incorporate AI for AI's sake. Let's not do that. It is okay. I encourage it. And then fourth up is really community support. Progress doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's been so interesting to see cohort after cohort how students' projects and ideas and workflows evolve and improve when new people build on top of it. And you'll see some examples of that too. Shared problem solving supported growth. BrightonSEO, who I presented this to, really are such a beautiful example of that. It's just a beautiful community. And then across all of these things is iterating and failing quickly. So important. And you will continue to rinse and repeat that iteration and fail mindset across all of these things as you go along. So this is the blueprint. And I'm going to show you some examples here. Again, we got to have the courage to implement imperfectly. All right, let's start with Maddie. So Maddie started problem first. She doesn't have time to go through PR requests in her inbox, qualify them, and then write the perfect response. This makes total sense, right? And so Maddie's workflow is so brilliant. So she set up a Zapier agent that parses emails with the labels HARO or PR ops identifies relevant opportunities based on criteria info. She shares the whole prompt with us, which is just incredible. References all Blogsmith content and bylines. This was such a world-class addition to her workflow. So basically, this workflow references, again, all the content the Blogsmith has ever created for themselves or for clients. And that is what crafts a high-quality, relevant, drafted response. This all gets packaged up and pushed to her Slack via notification with all of that information that looks like this. Unbelievable. Important to note, all workflows and code for each and every example, full prompts, everything are all shared here. And Maddie shares this is her entire Zapier template that you can make a copy of and tweak to do something similar. So highly, highly recommend checking out those workflows and getting the code for that. This is her prompt in a summary. So again, when she gets an email with the label HARO or PR Ops, this is the point in my talk. I'm going to be so for real with you. This is the point in my talk where I could just feel myself losing the audience. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. In my brain, I was like, oh, this makes sense because I already kind of, this feels redundant because I went through this here. What am I doing? Doing it again here just to, anyways. So on stage, I kind of pivoted, really skimmed over this. Again, encouraged people to check out her workflow on the link. She's unbelievable. And something I love about Maddie is before the conference, we had a call, and the first thing she said about this workflow is she goes, one caveat is this works, but it's not perfect. And I was like, this is why you're successful with AI. Truly, this is why. And she even detailed like the things that she wants to improve with the workflow, like very, very specific things. That is how you build with AI. That is how you improve and grow and succeed. Highly recommend giving Maddie a follow. She is just getting started. She has this incredible article on Zapier about all the things she's vibe coded and built, and I am the biggest fan. So again, she started with a really specific problem first thinking, identifying relevant PR requests in her email. She knew the relevant data, right, to pipe in the emails and content. She verified that it works, and she has shared the workflow with others. This is a job well done. Next up, Everett. His problem was it's really difficult and time consuming to identify top internal linking opportunities for large sites. He's exactly right. We've all run into this problem before. Workflow, I mean, not only is this workflow so genius, but the path that he took to get here was so arduous, and he ran into more problems, but it's such a beautiful blueprint of how you succeed with AI. So let's check it out. So at the end of his workflow, you get this beautiful CSV file of all the target URLs, and then the top 5 related pages to each URL, and then whether or not they're linking to the target. This is so brilliant. You can also pipe in Google Search Console data, and it just allows you to prioritize, opportunities for big sites even faster. And Everett's now created the wrong internal link workflow, which you have to check out. Go follow him. But this is the workflow. So it's automatically surfacing these internal link opportunities by way of Screaming Frog, OpenAI Embeddings API, Colab Notebook, and Google Sheets. And again, I already mentioned this kind of cherry on top with GSC data. So Everett submitted this task idea as an assignment in my class over a year ago. And he was successful. And instead of going through all the steps here, again, this is where I felt myself losing people at Brighton. which makes sense. Like, this is why I try to avoid getting in the weeds. This is here for you to run and do at your leisure. I'm not going to go through every single step, but we have made this so easy for you to do this and to successfully surface internal link opportunities in fewer and fewer steps. The results of this workflow is literally 2 hours of time saved a week surfacing these results. That's over 108 hours a year. And this is only if you're doing it, around once a week. I know there's different teams or SEOs that maybe do it more for more sites. So just to give you a little visibility into Everett's journey, because I think this is important. After the class, he didn't build this. He continued to work on it beyond the course. And he reached out to Mike King, Gus Pologia, myself. There's also a different thread with Patty Mugen, and Ian Lurie jumped in with some ideas and support. So like, this has been on his mind for a really long time, and he has just like continued to kind of plow through it. I'm just so proud of him. Like, this is such a cool success story, because from the start of the course to successfully publishing the entire workflow on Moz was around 4 months. He was able to do all of that within 4 months. And the cool part is, even after he published, shout out to Chima at Moz and the Moz team, because they've been so incredible at continuing to update this workflow, because there have been iterative improvements ever since he published. So one collaborative improvement was noticing how many steps there were to set up Screaming Frog in a particular way. And we thought, well, you could just use a config file for that, right? That takes up all of those steps. Also, tons of steps. This took around 20 minutes to do manually, to clean and filter and sort data. And this was the big one where I was like, man, because I remember doing it manually the first couple times, and I was just feeling too lazy. But I was like, I need to write a Panda script to do all of this. And I did that. And so Everett was able to make the Moz article 50% shorter, because now literally all you have to do is get your all links export and your embedding CSV from Screaming Frog. Go to the file that I wrote. Shout out to Gus Pologia. I pulled his initial script is in here. I try to give all the shout outs in these notes up here, but essentially you just connect to this notebook, run the one cell. It's just one cell. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Upload your all links data as a CSV and your embeddings data as a CSV. It doesn't matter what they're called. The notebook does the rest, and it automatically downloads all of your internal link opportunities. So like, that's pretty incredible. And this is the power of community, right? Like, progress really doesn't happen in a vacuum. This took, for Everett, over 25 messages. I feel like I'm being conservative, like 50 plus hiccups and errors. It was probably way more than that. And 4 months between class homework to Moz post. So don't get discouraged, right? It's really important to kind of stick with different things and continue iterating, because that really is the name of the game. This was really how Everett beautifully followed the blueprint, right? He had the problem first thinking, the internal linking. We're rhyming. He got those, I'm losing it. You got the Screen Frog data, you got proof of concepts, lots of collaboration. This was awesome. All right, next up, Federico Pasquale, the one and only. He started with a very clear problem. He needs to identify potential customers for his new startups, an early stage startup. And Fed always says it's really key to reach the right people at the right time with the right message through the right medium. And he has found some clever ways to do that. So his goal was to identify people engaging with, and now it's like 100 degrees in here. I'm so sorry. So many, what the heck? Gotta open it. live, people. We're live. Sorry about that. I'm just gotta get my office sorted. World. Okay. Sorry. All right. So identify people engaging with competitors' posts on LinkedIn. I think this is a genius strategy. Feed that data to an LLM to craft a personalized outreach message. And the end result looks something like this. Pretty incredible. So Fed has successfully done all of that. And these are some of the messages. And it references what the people commented on, and ties it into kind of the soft introduction of WordCrafter and how that relates to what they were talking about on a previous post. This is so cool. I love this workflow. So the workflow looks like this. It starts with Phantom Buster. What is the beetle? I'm so sorry. Phantom Buster, Google Sheets, GPT for Sheets, OpenAI for the end result to get personalized outreach. If you haven't heard of Phantom Buster, you're in for a treat. This tool is mind-blowing. You just go to it, you can extract leads from LinkedIn posts, and you have a couple options. You can add a company page, you can use a profile page, a single post, you name it. And you can collect the data of the commenters and likers on LinkedIn. And if you know anything about scraping data on LinkedIn, it's just notoriously difficult to do. They make it really, really hard to do this. And so the fact that Phantom Buster sets this all up so easily is pretty awesome. So Federico identified Byword as a competitor. Shout out Byword. And so when Byword posts something, it's going to identify and log any commenters or likers, right? So it's going to collect all of this information. I loved these comments. I just had to pull them from Byword posts. These are great. And then it collects all of this in Phantom Buster, where you can download an entire table of these people's data. This was one I ran on my stuff. So if you see your name here, don't be weirded out. This is if you've interacted with me. And it collects all this information. So you get first name, last name, occupation. You get the heading on LinkedIn. You know how you can have like the subheading on LinkedIn. You get the profile URL, timestamp, the comment, the person left, and then the original post content for context. Then you set up GPT for Sheets. This is really where the magic happens, where you can create a custom prompt to reference all of those columns to then feed it to an LLM. This is not Fed's full prompt. To give you kind of a sample of, there's the beginning of the prompt, all the user information. It references all those columns and then kind of describes what the goal is of the output here. And it has constraints. Again, the full prompt is at the URL shared. I guess we can post that here too when we're done. Important to note that even when you have constraints and like failure rules, if you do any of these things, your workflow is deemed a failure. LLMs still won't follow these 100% of the time. It's a really brilliant way to attempt to improve the outputs, and I think it does improve the outputs, but it's just important to note that this isn't like, foolproof, right? It will still go sideways sometimes, which is why it's so important to have a human in the loop. Again, I could feel I'm losing people here, so I kind of skip through. But the outputs are brilliant, it feels very personalized, right? It's connecting with someone about a comment that they left, tying it back into, how this relates to WordCrafter, and then inviting them to a quick 30-minute chat. So really beautifully follows our framework here. Federico's generously shared this workflow. I want to put a twist on this. And this is where I encourage any of you watching to similarly approach and think about these AI examples is when you come across different workflows, examples like this, they don't all have to apply exactly to what it is that you're doing. You can tweak and change and, change some of the underlying mechanics to do something totally different. So I was thinking about Fed's workflow for a long time, and I was really inspired by Maddie's workflow referencing all of the Blogsmith's content, right? How smart to reference all of the content that they've ever created, their opinions, right? Their field of expertise. It's all in this like RAG-like model for PR responses. What if I did something on a much smaller scale for outreach like Fed? And so I took one for the team here, and I did a similar workflow, but I targeted LinkedIn users who have interacted with my posts recently. And this is a shorter version of my prompt. I share the whole thing again at that link that I'll share. There's a bug in here. Sorry. I think it's a ladybug. Ladybugs are everywhere right now. What's going on? But my prompt was quite different from Fed's. It was, again, totally inspired by how brilliant his prompt and his workflow was, but I put my twist on it, right? So I feed it the user information that's interacted, but then I thought, okay, how can I want to include, here are available resources to offer that have already been created, and to just offer this to the individual via message based on, their interests, their job, and contextually as whatever gets fed into the model. And the results were incredible, right? Like, look how specific these are. Aligns well with your strategic role at Zion Health Share. Like, what? Your perspective on existential risks resonated deeply. This aligns, or I have an AI models 101 overview that might align with your interests. Like, absolutely incredible. I would tweak a couple like small things here and there, but largely I sent what was generated. So this is another example. Again, look how specific. Take a guess at what the response rate was. And actually, I have to update this because it's improved since I gave this talk. I got a response today, actually. But by the time of this talk, it was 77%. It's over 80% now, which is pretty wild, right? Like, that's wild. But we also have to take a step back and consider these are people that have already interacted with me. So they're likely familiar. They're also likely, engaged on LinkedIn and want a free resource, right? So super, super interesting. I will be so for real. This didn't feel good. I didn't really feel good sending these. It felt a little strange. And I think partly that's because of my personal brand, right? I worked really hard to build trust and rapport and credibility among people in my space, and I take that really seriously. And so something about this felt very like disingenuine. That being said, this could be a brilliant workflow for a company or for something that doesn't kind of have that like primary value of connection in mind. Does that make sense? Also, I'm dying to hear Fed's feedback on this. And it's interesting to also note that in these workflows, so in this last workflow, but also the others, AI often plays just a teeny part of a successful workflow. Majority of a workflow is just kind of a data pipeline of things that you need to, grab and clean and organize in order for AI to do something with that. And your biggest AI advantage, it won't be via better AI. It's going to be from better AI implementation. And we don't have to over-engineer this, right? You can also start really, really small and just stay in AI applications like Gemini. That's how I got paid in under 2 hours once. I used this prompt. to rewrite an email to sound like it was written or influenced by legal counsel, blah, blah, blah. I fed in the entire thread for context, removing personally identifiable information. Perhaps I CC'd a fake lawyer email account. Who knows? That could have been beneficial. But it was pretty successful, right? So you don't have to over-engineer this. What ways can kind of AI help support some of the things you're trying to accomplish? I was doing the positioning exercise. I loved this book. Highly, highly recommend. But I got stuck on number 4, which is identify competitive alternatives. And so I just got stuck because I was like, I'm not in my students' shoes. I don't know what competitors they're thinking about when they're thinking about, joining an AI course. And so I set up a Colab notebook or program using the Reddit API. Honestly, the hardest part of this process is finding the Reddit API. And it's right here at this URL, so you don't have to struggle to find it. You also get 2 free apps for any Reddit account. And the bandwidth for the API limits are pretty generous, so have fun. But I created, and again, all of this is shared with you, this competitive research script via Reddit conversations from SEO subreddits, from marketing subreddits. I specifically wanted to know, what AI courses are they talking about or considering? What does that look like? How can I identify, who my course might be up against for this positioning exercise? Another silly problem, hard to keep a pulse on industry trends in the news cycle, right? It's just constant. I'm always thinking about the Google News API, always. It's also a great filter. There's not a lot of, bad stuff in there. It kind of takes care of that, surfaces, I don't know, quote unquote quality news, arguable, but you get what I'm saying. This is for more advanced. You can create a dashboard piping in the Google News API to get a little report on a specific query like artificial intelligence. I do this every week, of just a summary of what happened in the world of AI news last week, right? What did that look like? What were the top entities mentioned? I guess Jeff Dunham is coming out with a comedy tour called Artificial Intelligence. I think that's pretty funny. Top news sources. The Motley Fool is always first, which I find so interesting. We also get top authors. We see Neil Patel out here just doing the most. Look at you go, Neil. And this is a lot more kind of over-engineered than you would need. You could do this with just the SERP API and something like Gemini or ChatGPT to create a program to surface this information. I sort of take it to the next level and create a Flask React app to house all of it in. Google Chrome extensions, you can create your own Google Chrome extension. I can't believe I didn't know about this until this year. I always thought you had to get approved by the Play Store or something. But no, you can just create whatever you want. This is one I probably shouldn't spend too much time talking about. It also doesn't really work anymore. But I kind of jumped on this trend when I got early access to AI mode. And the only reason I was able to successfully write this pretty successful LinkedIn post was because I had this Chrome extension that was logging data for me and helping to support these insights. So you can do lots of cool stuff with it. Moving on. Burnt toast. Are you sick of AI? Me too. This extension turns any and all AI mentions into burnt toast. It's just funny. It really does help sometimes. And word of warning is that it actually does change the text. Meaning if you have this on and you're sending an email, any reference of AI will be burnt toast and on the receiving end, which is a weird one to explain. One of my students who I learned a ton from, Katie Bedford, she's doing incredible things with AI workflows too. Go follow some of her work. She put me onto Text Expander for reoccurring prompts. I don't know why I never thought about the Chrome extension for this, but that is genius. So if that helps. This is what I deem as like the AI Builder's Toolkit. So you don't need a ton of tools, but I do think Claude Sonnet 3.7 model for writing is still number one across the board for writing tasks, at least for the writing tasks that I do. Yeah. Zapier agents. Zapier is basically kind of channeled Cursor and helps users create their own workflows by way of Zapier agents, and it really it's shockingly good. I have been very impressed, and Maddie's also taught me a lot about that. GPT for Work, this lights your Google Sheets and Excel on fire with AI. The capabilities that they have just fully baked in here. Yes, you could create a Google Sheet with a script that pulls in whatever. It could pull in Claude or Gemini or OpenAI, and I have those if you need one. But this gets so nuanced, and you can do bulk requests, which saves you money. I could go on. I actually did a whole free lightning lesson on this that maybe we can link to. WordCrafter, turn SERP intelligence into content that ranks. This is Federico Pasquale's company. Absolutely brilliant in terms of using AI for the parts of SEO that it is so qualified to do. So this AI basically looks at all of the Google search results for a particular topic and surfaces what you need to cover to be competitive. It can create content briefs. It's also really interactive. The idea isn't just to let AI generate, slop to rank. This is encouraging you to create world-class content with the support of AI. So I am a huge, huge advocate of this tool specifically because I've also seen how Federico's built it the last couple of years, and I'm just so proud of him. I think it's so cool. You can use Brittany for 25% off, I believe, or some free credits. Let me know if that doesn't work. But yeah, I highly recommend. Olama for private on-prem LLMs. Rick Ramos, you crack me up. Rick is the coolest, and I put him onto this. When was that, Rick? Like 2 years ago. And Rick has just continued to play and build really cool things. And something that he demoed recently and shared with me is this personal finance app on his computer. Again, this isn't going anywhere. It's completely private on his computer. And he has fed it all of his personal financial information. And it's a calculator that he can basically query in natural language. So can I afford, $2,500 vacation this month, right? And it will tell him. It's so awesome. Love it. Collab notebooks. There's a reason why Jupyter notebooks, they're all the same thing. Collab notebooks, IPython notebooks are all the same thing. There's a reason why these are the primary go-to in machine learning because of that iterative nature, right? This is where all engineers go just to validate if an idea or a model will even work. And there's a lot of ways we as marketers and SEOs can be using this for tons and tons of value adds. Notebook LM, right? If you need a RAG type model, retrieval augmented generation, you can upload sources into Notebook LM and it will cite, you can query against that, and it will cite specific parts of those sources that are relevant to your query. Really, really impressive. Also, this team at Google is stacked with AI engineers at the moment. So I fully expect them to continue rolling out really brilliant features and additions in the near future. And if you're wondering, wow, Brittany, I remember you talking about Notebook LM like years ago before anyone knew about this. How do you know? Also AI mode. How do you know about these things? I creep on Google. Check out labs.google.com on a regular basis. You too can see what Google's working on. Cursor, if you are the least bit technical, you have no excuse. You have to dip your toes in, you have to explore this. It really is a game changer, but in order to use this properly and efficiently, you need some type of version control. Most people use Git. Git intimidates people for some reason, but it is actually quite intuitive once you get used to it. So that is our framework, right? Start with the problem, gather supporting data, get an early proof of concept, lean on community for support. The collaborative nature of this is everything. Again, this is where your competitive advantage lies. I challenge Brighton SEOs to identify a task before they leave, break it down into steps, get a proof of concept. Don't forget to have the courage to implement. And I do want to say, so this last part, the community support, that is so, so important. And not only this, but also just seeing and staying in touch with all my graduates beyond the course. I do regular graduate office hours. There's been such an obvious demand for some sort of space and community to continue supporting marketers, to continue supporting professionals using AI for specific things. And so I'm working really hard to build this out. I've made this a mission of mine to really make AI accessible to everyone and be able to support you in better and more efficient ways. Because again, progress doesn't happen in a vacuum. So check out Orange Labs if you're interested, and join us as we, build with AI and support each other. A special thanks to Yelena, who's my insane, brilliant, talented EA. I could not have done all of this without her. All of the prompts, all the code are at this QR code. You can also go to this Win AI bit.ly link. I had some bonus slides I did not get to, where I just wanted to yell correlations, not causation. LLMs are not search engines, right? They're not information retrieval. I feel like we really are just rediscovering SEO. Someone tweeted this very recently, frustrated that AI slop garbage listicles are showing up in ChatGPT. This is why they have trust issues. I point out that this is just a reflection of search results, right? That LLM requires search engines to provide URLs, again, because they don't have that capability. That's a great point. There's nothing else out there. It appears LLMs are forced to default. They're not forced to default. They literally need search results to tap into real-time information, answers, etc., to surface various outputs. And I think we're really getting the two conflated. And I just wrote a link about this. If you're interested, I think gotten lots of DMs of people that are either a little confused or not so happy about it. I don't know what to say. I feel like it's important to educate people about this. Oops. Still sharing my screen, right? Where is it? Right here. I want to check it out. Maybe we'll link to this. But I think this is really important for marketers and for SEOs to really understand the difference here. And yes, like regular outputs that aren't URLs could just be kind of a rag type answer, but it's just, again, it's really important to know there's two very different mechanisms at play. I asked the people building AI how to optimize for it. I gotta be honest, this felt really embarrassing, and I was asking really silly questions. Thankfully, most of the researchers were pretty kind. Yeah, I thought some of these answers were really interesting, so I wanted to share. But that is it. That's a wrap on my Brighton SEO keynote. I want to thank each and every one of you. No one joined for joining me. No, I didn't announce it, so it's okay. It's just me, myself, and I. We're testing this out. See, I am trying to have the courage to execute imperfectly, my friends. And imperfectly it is. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking this out. I appreciate you. Also, for those of you still listening, you're incredible, and also you're helping to shape this community, and I really value that. And I would love to hear, any requests or guides or information you would like to see created. And yeah, thanks so much, and keep building. Bye.